Hello again. Here we are to start another video of this CHEK course on the Learning Objective 7 about the CHEK process map this time. So we are going for the first time in this course to look at the entire process of the toolkit that CHEK has created and hopefully try to provide you with the knowledge of the entire helicopter view of the tools that have been created by the project and assist in understanding how this toolkit and the way that has been paved can show and exhibit the way that we actually should go in the future or could go in the future. So one disclaimer in the beginning, which I think is very important, is let's try not to use mobile phones for checking this video, because there will be some very, very small things appearing on screen because there are very big process maps to be displayed. So it's an optimum experience if you see this on your computer instead with at least a 13-inch screen. So as for today, we are going to look at the CHEK toolkit first as a global aspect. Then we are going to look at the process maps by designers, for designers and for municipalities. And finally, a little bit to explain about the training videos that go on together with these process maps. But you will see it as we even go through the designers and municipalities process map. So the CHEK toolkit is exactly what I've been speaking about. It's a set of tools that have been created sort of independently in some cases, and in other cases collaboratively with each other, that lead to the fact that you do not necessarily need to use a single solution from beginning to end, but you can contribute through several solutions to a final purpose, which is the process of digital building permitting. So these tools independently by themselves are very, very interesting, and they exhibit the dichotomy that you can have between academic-based tools and professional industry-based tools that will be, of course, the ones that in principle will be serving the digital building permitting process with a more user-friendly and more direct tools. So the CHEK toolkit includes all these tools. So these names that we see on the left will be the jargon that we are going to use through the process map identification, and they are made by the developers we see on the right-hand side, and these developers are actually the members of the CHEK project, of course. And I will be using my mouse often on the presentation to display and actually I'm using the laser pointer to display the important parts of the process map. So this is one of the very important parts of what's happening next. So we will start by looking at the designer's process map, because one could say that the process starts with the designers submitting their IFC file, in this case for permitting, and then municipalities will analyze, even though there is some work to be done by the municipalities before the designers. So these are the two big process maps that we are going to zoom in some moments, but it's very important that you understand that in parallel to watching this video, it would be nice if you have these process maps on another screen or printed, and they are available on the e-learning platform of CHEK. So you just download them and watch them. Also, it's important that you also realize that there are some links next to each one of these boxes, and these links will allow you to watch the videos on how each one of these tools work. So this will, on one hand, give you the helicopter view of the entire process, what goes on with what, and at the same time, if you want to look at the detailed view of any part of the process, you will be able to do that by clicking the videos and understanding how that specific piece of the toolkit or piece of software works and what is the process to use it, okay? So this is sort of a map, this presentation. So let's start with the designer's process map. So it's this big diagram, which I will zoom in now, but for starters, this is a process map that follows more or less the business process map notation and BPMN. And what you will see is several swim lanes horizontally. And in this case, the process map doesn't have necessarily stages, but you will, of course, understand there are stages here. And in each swim lane, you see one of the providers of one of the solutions, okay? So in the first line, you see CPE software, which is repeated then later on, because CPE is taking care of the BIM Server Center but on the top and near the bottom, they are taking care of the CP Urban software, which are two tools that they have for the toolkit. And then we can see other stakeholders, which I'm actually zooming in because it's easier to see. So we will have Virtual City Systems and Synapse. We'll have D-Roots, and we'll have RDF and TU Delft, and D-Roots again, which also develops two tools. So for each one of these companies, or in this case university, I'll be speaking about what I actually developed as it comes into context. Okay, so as an agreement in the CHEK platform, there is a DBP platform the Digital Building Permits platform, where one will enter and create a corporate account. So we are a designer that is about to submit a process to municipality, and we are doing our design, and we are going to create our account in this server. So it could be any other server, but in this case of the CHEK toolkit, we are using this particular one. You will create a project, and to do that, you have these videos that are clickable, and you can understand. It's in BIM Server Center by CP. And then after the project is created, you will connect this to a plugin that will allow to extract the city model data. So the extraction of city model data goes into the context of the place where you are actually going to build your building. For example, let's imagine I'm about to building a 5-story building in a certain plot. So I will go here in the VC Map plugin, and I will go through the plugin. You have here the videos on how to use it. You connect this permit process to this platform, and you extract a little bit of the city around your plots. And this that you extract will give you back to the main server, to the main platform. It will give you back the GIS partial city model. This GIS partial city model, we are going to follow this workflow. Please don't look at this workflow now, but it will connect later, and I think it's pretty obvious, so I'll not speak about that again. But if we go through this workflow now with this partial city model in our BIM Server Center, we go through a process according to a tool developed by RDF, the GIS to BIM, where we can actually convert this GIS model of the partial city to IFC. What does this mean? This means that now we will have again in our platform, the Digital Building Permit platform, the partial city model in the IFC format, which means I can now go to this very special line that has no logo, as you see here, and which is my authoring tool, whichever authoring tool you are using, so to produce your BIM models. I'm not going to enumerate brands, but they are well known. So you will connect to your partial city model in IFC, so you import the IFC or you link the IFC to your file, and you will be able to create your BIM model in your authoring tool in a proprietary format, if it's the case, and then you are able to finish your BIM model, and at some point you will need to export this BIM model according to the CHEK process, okay? So this export follows procedures according to the exchange information requirements of the CHEK project. That is one of the deliverables that CHEK created. And there are several tools such as the IDS. So there's an IDS file that will allow you to check if the information is correct, because you know the requirements and you can be checked for the information. But for comfort of users, D-Roots, one of our partners, has created special IFC exporters, both for ArchiCAD and for Revit. So this means that in these two particular authoring platforms, you are able to export your IFC according to a predefined set of configurations that then will successfully allow you to export an IFC that, at least in theory, would be compliant. Of course, you need to do your job well in your authoring platform as well. But this IFC that was exported now is showing on the BIM Server Center platform. So you can remember that we had a partial city model which was in GIS, then it becomes IFC, and now our BIM model of what we are actually wanting to submit for permitting is now in IFC. And this IFC now can go through a process which is not necessarily mandatory, but it's very good for confirmation of good quality of our IFC. It goes down here to these two lines. One line is the IFC checker, which is made by RDF, and it will allow you to check if your IFC is actually valid against the IFC schema that it would be supposed to be valid. And the IDS, which is the information requirements expressed in a digital format, and this can be checked with the IFC checker, and you have the video here. And also, you can check your IFC for the georeferencing according to a tool developed by TU Delft, which is the IFC GREF. And you will see several videos also about how to use this. So this is a not mandatory process, but it will at least ensure a certain degree of quality of your information and the fact that you have the model in the right place. So assuming all is valid, which of course if it's not valid, you have to go back to your BIM authoring tool, we go to the second part of the process. So we are now I'm going to click a key and we go to the second part of the process, which starts with a yes on the BIM Server Center. Okay, so starting with a yes on the BIM Server Center, which is exactly now on the left-hand side. So on the right-hand side, you have the labels again so that you know where you are. So starting with this yes, we will now go through one of three distinct workflows. So in the CHEK project, there were these three companies and these three softwares, so VCMap, Verify 3D, and CP Urban. And these three softwares can be used to do the following. So I can just give an example. For example, I'll go through this particular line. I don't even need to say which software is which. It's basically a very similar process. So we pick up the IFC and import it from the digital building permits platform. So it's just an import to this software. Then there's the compliance check. This is where all the information is managed and checked against the regulations. So this is where everything happens in a simplified way. And then there will be a report generated. You see that for all these softwares, the end is a report generated that goes back to the DBP platform, in this case in BIM Server Center. So this validation report, in theory, will have it's okay, hopefully. If it's not okay, of course, you will have to iterate, or you should iterate, because it means that probably something failed in the permitting process. And with this validation report, there's another step that was made by D-Roots, and you can actually sign your IFC with a digital signature, so to become officially recognized as your responsibility as the author of the IFC. And then this signed IFC will go finally to the digital building permit platform for appreciation or for evaluation by the municipality. So of course, I just gave a very, very general overview of the entire process, but it allows you at least to understand what is the big set of tools that the CHEK project created, and that you can just click on your PDF that you can download of this process map in the e-learning platform, and you just click and it's sort of the table of contents of the YouTube channel where all these videos are available. So with this being said, there is another process map that needs to be evaluated, which is the municipalities process map. So this process map contains a little bit of work that happened before the designers were able to do their job, because designers had to have a partial city model. So the municipalities process map will include the city model generation, but then the municipalities are actually going to participate in the process by checking the validation report that was initially submitted by the whoever was requiring the permit, and with this validation they can take action. So of course there are many complex things that one could be discussing here, if the municipality should be only looking at the validation or doing the verification themselves, and this can happen as well. So it's a flexible approach, but you will see that on the training videos. So here is the global municipalities process map, which is divided in three parts. So the three parts are relatively simple to explain why they are different. So the first part on the left-hand side pertains to the preparation of the city model. The second part in the municipality is actually the verification procedure. So it's this beginning here of the second part precisely coincides with the end of the designer process map. And in this first part, where we are actually preparing the city model, the end of the preparation of the city model just lands before the designer process map. So in simple terms, the municipality does something in the beginning, then designers will come and do a lot of things, as the previous process map mentioned, and then we take on here, which is the process map about what is going to happen in terms of verification by the municipality. And then there's the third group of the process map, which is after a permit has been issued, you may pick up the IFC, probably of the as-built model, and then upgrade the city model with the tools of CHEK, so that the city is permanently updated by whatever has been built in the meantime. So I'm going to dive a little bit into these three parts of this process map. So this was just the global table of contents. And if we look at the first part, which is the one that happens just before designers have been given the option to receive the city map. So the city will have their own municipality GIS system or GIS authoring tool, whatever the municipality is using. They develop their own city model, and this city model, for which we have several authoring platforms, can be exported in CityGML, CityJSON for the tool by the Open Geospatial Consortium, the CityGML checker, which will validate several compliance and completeness issues on the model. And this goes in line with the CHEK procedure, and the deliverables of CHEK are showing what is actually being satisfied there. So if all the information is valid in the CityGML that has been generated in a perfectly independent authoring platform, then you get a yes. And by getting the yes, this means the city has a fully compliant information set on the CityGML or CityJSON file that will be the necessary step for whoever wants to get a permit, start from the city model in their process. Okay, so this ends this process, and now let's pretend I was now describing the entire process by the designers, and when the designers submit the final step of their IFC file to the municipality, which includes the validation report, this is what the municipality receives. So the municipality is now receiving also on BIM Server Center, in this case, according to the CHEK procedure or the toolkit, they receive the validation report together with the sign BIM model, which is an IFC. They receive the application, and now first they can go through a semantic and IDS verification. So the IDS checker that was mentioned just before when the designer was submitting the process, they could check their IFC. The municipality is perfectly able to do the same checking as well, but of course this is optional. If the designer has checked, this will just say okay. And then we can go through the workflow of one of the three software houses that we have mentioned that have made the verifying tools. So the municipality will have in each one of these softwares the capacity to cross-check the validation report. So it's not only about believing what the validation report said from the previous part, but also having the opportunity, according to each software capability, to check, is this what I think it is? Is the verification correct? Do I agree? So the tools that the municipality can have to take their own choices on their built environment and issues like that, this will be given in these tools. And of course, you have examples on how this can happen in these three videos according to each tool. And finally, of course, the traditional process of municipalities having to say something about what they saw. So they will approve, they will not approve, they will require further information, but this is always in the form of a report, which, if positive, would mean that the process is finished and the permit has been issued. This is a very big simplification of the process. Of course, it's a little bit more complicated than this, but we just wanted to lay out what the tools can do, and you can see the examples according to which workflow you would select according to the three possible tools here. So let's suppose this was a perfectly neat situation where the designer submitted an amazing IFC that complies to all municipality regulations, and the municipality just says, yes, this is amazing. So then there's the permit to build, which can be in several ways in each municipality, but then the asset is built, or the asset is about to be built and is approved. So now we start the last step of the process for the municipalities, which is how am I going to enrich the city model that I have so that for the next constructions, the next designers that are going to submit projects, they actually know what's going on in the city and they can understand the height of the neighboring buildings, and all of this is correct in the city map. So this would be the cities of the future with this very updated city map. And one of the tools to make this happen in a relatively streamlined manner is you have the as-built model of the IFC. So after you finish the construction, you could say in theory, the owner is submitting to the municipality, here's the IFC of what was actually built, which should be in theory equal to the IFC of the permitting process. Then there's this tool, the BIM2Geo from TU Delft, that will extract the building envelope and will allow to create the CityJSON model of the as-built building envelope, and then you take it to the city model. So I remind you that this was the municipality GIS system, so you will enrich the city model in the proprietary GIS system with an open format. And that's the end of it. So I don't think There's much more to say about this, except to stress again that all these process maps that I have said, that I have shown, they are actually on YouTube. They are totally available. You may or may not subscribe to the channel, but they are even in chunks, in playlists for the several parts of the process. So you can just go and enjoy YouTube videos at will, but if you want to get the global picture, where does this fit in the global process? What does this mean? This is where we'll see. Okay, so I sincerely hope that you found this video instructive and helpful, and that the process map really allows understanding what this is about in terms of the global digital building process, the digital building permit process, I apologize, and how we can actually leverage the existence of these tools for the permitting of the future as a final goal of the CHEK project. Thank you very much.